Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Project, a Tableau Community event series where we'll be going live here on YouTube with community project leaders to better understand their projects, as well as what's next, how to get involved, and to take a look behind some of the standout visualizations that were submitted. So please don't be shy in the chat. We would love to know who is joining us and where you're tuning in from. And we'll also be answering your burning questions at the end of today's talk. So feel free to drop your questions at any point and we'll make a note of them to ask at the end. Now, this talk is being recorded, so if you do need to drop early, don't worry, you can come back to YouTube later and watch it again. My name is Priya Padham, and I am a Tableau and Ultrix consultant at the Information Lab and a Tableau Public Ambassador. And I will be the host of this series. And I'm so excited because this is the very first session. And today we're talking all about Games Night Viz. And Games Night Viz is a monthly project focusing on using data from your favorite games to improve your Tableau skills. And I am joined by two of the three project leaders today, Yu and Tina Covelli. Thank you both so much for joining me today. So how about Lewis, if you wanted to start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, so I'm Louis. I'm the co-host for Games Night Viz. So I've been doing this program for over a year. I think we've reached our anniversary soon in December. So it's been a real delight seeing everyone participate in this.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Tina. Tell us about yourself as well.
Yep, and I'm Tina, also co-host for Game Night Viz. You may have seen the work that Lewis and I do with Will in the community. And then, as you mentioned, for December, we had some fun holiday challenges out there as well. So
perfect. Thank you both so much. So we're going to start off with some questions about the project to get a better idea of what goes on behind the scenes and how the project runs and so on. And then Lewis is going to walk through one of his visualizations that he built and submitted for this project. So to start, I'd actually love to ask the audience a couple of questions to get things going. So I'd love to know how many of you have participated in a Games Night Viz challenge and who here is thinking about participating in Games Night Viz. So I'm going to let you all kind of talk in the chat there. And let's get started with the questions for our guests. So Lewis, can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration and the story behind how you got involved in Games Night Viz?
Sure. So Will is the real mastermind behind this, and he kind of approached me and Tina last October. We weren't too involved in the committee then, as we were quite knee-deep in our graduate program in data analytics and visualization. But being avid gamers, we couldn't say no to Will, could we? This was also the perfect stepping stone to get involved with the rich and vibrant data fam community and a way for us to give back.
Yeah, and similar to Lewis, this was a win-win for us. We often spent our free time during our master's program discussing different games that we were playing. So it was a natural next step for us to participate. And we're really happy to also be able to incorporate the skills that we learned in our program to the design challenges aspect of every new challenge that's in Game Night Viz. Will had a ton of game-related ideas, but too many for himself to create. So instead, he found a few people that were also passionate about games, and you released them to the masses, and that's how Games Night Viz was born.
Amazing. I love that. So what is the goal behind your project, would you say?
I guess the goal of Games Night Viz is to kind of create an inclusive and welcoming space to anyone interested in games, which is why we advocate not only video games, but also card games, board games, and many more. Whether you are a seasoned Tableau Jedi or someone who has just started learning the tool, we have a wide array of data sets and different difficulty levels to fit everyone.
Yeah, and I think there's also an element of something new, learning something new, being involved. Will not only had the data sets, but he also wanted to include prep challenges as well as design challenges. So there's something for everyone. You could approach it like a back to basics viz or prep and data challenge, and it's entirely up to you. And that's why it's so natural that Games Night Viz also collaborates often with other community challenges.
Yeah, I noticed that. I absolutely love how you have different kind of difficulty levels, and then you also have the prep and the visualization side. I love that. It's kind of like you said, something for everyone. So that's perfect. So I'm actually going to pause for a second. I'm going to ask the audience a question, and I'd love to know kind of what skills would you think you would learn from this project, or what skills you're hoping to learn by participating in Games Night Viz. And I'm actually going to pass that as well to Lewis. If you could tell us what can someone expect to learn in terms of Tableau skills with this project?
Honestly, the sky is the limit. There's always a monthly theme that focuses on a particular visual aspect. So from colors to fonts to iconography, map layers and layout containers. But to be honest with you, we are constantly blown away by the creativity and the technical knowledge of the participants. And we are definitely learning from the community as much as they're learning from us.
Amazing. And I completely agree. I just feel like I see so many people participating all the time, and from beginners to people who are so well known in the community. And I just feel like it brings everyone together because everyone loves games. So I love that. So who would you say, I mean, I guess it already kind of covers it, but who would you say is the ideal audience for your challenges?
Well, anyone who is picking up the ropes for Tableau and want to do it in a fun way. What more fun could there be than visualizing data for games? The great thing about this initiative is that it never truly starts or ends. So you can pick it up from the very first challenge and work your way up, or you could drop into the latest challenges. And if you're ever stuck, the awesome data fam, as well as Will, Tina, and myself will be happy to pull you along. Just hashtag data fam or games like this.
Yes, and don't forget the S in games for Games Night Viz. But yes, really, it is for anyone. We have non-Tableau participants that build in programming languages because that's how versatile the challenges really are. There's something for anyone, and there's ways to apply it across the data visualization community as a whole.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So what tips or advice do you have for someone who is thinking about taking part in this project?
I would say don't think, just do. Just like the Iron Viz, there's no losing in all of this. You're definitely going to be learning something.
I think you're on mute, Tina.
Sorry, I got too excited. That's exactly right, Lewis, right? So there's so many different challenges within each release. So you can pick to do one thing or you can pick to do all of it. We typically also leave about 6 weeks between the releases, so there's ample time, but don't feel obligated to work on something for 6 weeks. We encourage you to create with whatever time you have. So if you only have an hour, take an hour and just build something, have some fun.
I love that. And I love that kind of long period of time between the different kind of topics and things. And yeah, I love how you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do as well. That's really great. So is there anything you can share on what's coming next for your project?
So currently we are running the challenge level 5 montages where we invite you to visualize anything from video game montages, getting better at boss fights, going from a beginner to expert with the best strategies. But at the same time, Iron Viz is currently live, so we urge everyone to try out regardless of your experience level. We'll be taking a short break after 16th of October, just to let everyone focus on Iron Viz, and we'll kick out a very special collab for the December holidays just to wrap up the year.
Yep. And following that, we have some exciting challenges for the new year. So we'll see you post Iron Viz.
Oh, that's so exciting. I can absolutely guarantee that you both and Will have inspired so many people with your project. And I'm sure the audience is just waiting to hear how they can get involved. So how can they join in on the fun?
So the easiest way is that you could check out our website at gamesnightviz.webflow.io for more information on the latest challenges, or simply just tag Games Like This with your submission. You could also tag Will, Tina, or myself if you have any questions.
Yep. And then that site that Lewis created has everything you need. It has all of the different challenges, all the data, and every piece of information that you need on the challenges themselves. So also, we'd recommend following the three of us on Twitter, because we will tweet out when the new releases go live. So that's another way for you to be able to keep track of what's coming next. So thank you for everyone that's participated so far, and we're excited to see the rest.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And by the way, I love the website. I think it's really cool. So well done, Lewis.
Thank you.
So I'm now going to hand it over to you, Lewis. And Lewis will be showing us a kind of behind the scenes look at one of his Vizes. So go ahead, take it away.
Thank you. Just let me get started. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see my nice presentation header.
Yep.
So as a special treat to everyone, I will be offering myself up on a platter and showing how I did the Viz, the nostalgia of Final Fantasy Tactics, for the recent Iron Viz and Games Night Viz collab, which we organized in July. So I will not be going too deep in the technical aspect because we wouldn't have time for that. But I'll definitely give everyone a good overview of how it is done, hopefully to also spark some inspiration and ideas for the current Iron Viz as well. So now to start it off, I kind of grew up in the silver age of video games where we saw kind of like a peak in 2D pixel art games and the transition towards 3D games. So like Will and Tina, I was an avid gamer and I played so many games of different genres. My favorites, however, were always Japanese role-playing games, or JRPG in short, simply because of the rich storyline and characters that kind of transport you away into a world of fantasy, heroes, and villains. And that's what made it fun. So I thought really hard about my fondest memory. And while there were many tiebreakers, I had to go with Final Fantasy Tactics because that was one that had so much team building flexibility in the game. The main draw of it was that you could recruit story-related characters or mercenaries who would have access to a job system, each building upon one another. If you wanted to bring a whole team of mages into battle, not a problem. If you wanted to bring a team of swashbuckling knights and samurais, you could do that too. Or if you prefer the subtle approach with ninjas, thieves, and archers, the world was your oyster. There were so many permutations to get to where you want, and I wanted to put that as the focus of my visualization. I mapped out the entire system in Figma and started to brainstorm how would I visualize this in Tableau. I knew if I wanted a quick way for anyone to understand the path to a particular job and what were the strengths and weaknesses of that job, I had to kind of show the entirety, the relationship, and build interactivity somehow. And if you think about it fundamentally, all visualizations are just dots and points on axes. And I could potentially plot the jobs as points in the chart and the paths as connecting lines between each dot. Unfortunately, for such a niche idea, there's hardly any readily available datasets, so I had to make my own. Now, this isn't the best way to go about this, but this was how my mind visualized the end goal. I created the X and Y axes in Excel and plotted out the jobs with abbreviations and marked the rest empty as X. Looking back at hindsight, I could have probably just left them as blank. So after I was done with that, I had to transpose the data into tabular format so that I can import it into Tableau. So I kind of used offset and VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP, if you will, formulas in Microsoft Excel. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but that was one of the ways that I thought of. So I created the job table first, and then the job path table. The path table required a little bit more finesse because I needed to create multiple roles for each class. So for example, if the job has multiple paths leading to it, like a samurai, that would require knight, monk, and dragoon, the X and Y coordinates from the job table would have to be mapped accordingly. So you have like 3 records for just samurai. And I had to kind of map the origin and destination accordingly to either where it was coming in from and where it was going to. So for samurai, the origin would be the coordinates for the samurai in that X and Y coordinates, and the destination for each of the knight, monk, and dragoon would be the respective ones. And with that, we kind of have a working data set to get started in Tableau. There are some spatial functions in Tableau which you can use to manually plot stuff, and the one that I'm using specifically is make point. It requires an X and Y value, which was what we were doing in the previous steps. The path would then require a make line, which takes the value of the origin and destination X and Y. I will not go into detail on how this works in Tableau because that would take quite a bit. But if you folks are interested, I could probably go into detail with a blog post next week. So the idea is once you have those coordinates, Tableau automatically generates those longitude and latitude values for you, creating something like this. You can add as many additional map layers as you would like to create a nested visualization stacked on top of one another. Here, what you see is the job plot plotted against the job path on two different map layers. To add additional aesthetics to it, I changed the job layer to shapes so that I could assign distinct shapes to each of them. And after setting the background map to none and assigning images to each of the shapes, we have something finally like this. So for those that are not too familiar with adding images to Tableau, you could basically just go to the repository, shapes, and you can drop your images files inside. And from there, within Tableau, you can actually load it as the shapes. This was kind of easily the most time-consuming part because I had to adjust sizes, images, and parameters just to get to the presentable format. But with this big piece done, we could move on to the other pieces to kind of flesh out the rest of the visualization. So the first thing I wanted to do was to kind of add context to it. So, we wanted to enhance the story that I was trying to tell. What did the samurai game stats look like? The description, the path information, things like this could easily be searched for in wikis, Kaggle, or even the official website. Another context that I built was kind of going one step further to try and find sales data for the different games. So there are different websites that you could possibly look for information like this, such as VG charts or How Long to Beat. So these two websites are probably one of the better resources out for those people who are participating in Night Viz this year. So take a look when you have time. The final chef's keys was basically putting them all together and kind of creating a thematic design. So I took a lot of references to how the game looks in the game, and how the UI looks in the game. And I kind of use an image of the jewel within the game itself to kind of replace the word jewel. So if you read it this way, it will be the crown jewel of classical video games. Whereas, building on to that thematic design. And that was how the entire project came to fruition. So I can show you a little bit of how it looks like. So this is the kind of the dashboard that I published on Tableau Public. And the bar charts are pretty simple. It's just a dual axis chart with some tooltips. And the main piece is actually over here. So with some parameter switching, you can actually create kind of like paths like this. So when you roll over, let's say ninja, you would know that, to unlock a ninja, you require level 4 archer, level 5 thief, level 2 geomancer, and stuff like that. And the path is actually drawn for you, so you can easily search for the different paths that you are interested in. So that was kind of what I wanted to focus on. And now, to kind of wrap things up, we have some bonus tips from the team for those who are trying out Night Viz this year. So the first one is kind of finding your passion. Dig into your memories and pick up a game or topic that you either know a lot about than the average Joe or feel strongly about. This will definitely help to fuel your motivation and definitely be oozing out of every narrative that you put in your final product. The next one we would suggest is starting with the end. After you identify the topic, think about the takeaway message or question you have for your audience. What is the most interesting story that you want to showcase? Is it how this particular game has thought through all industry expectations, or how different it is from other games, or how popular it is? When you have that piece, you can kind of work backwards to gather the data to either prove or refute your point. And if that's not interesting enough, you can always go back to step one. Now, the third thing is kind of adding context to enhance your story. We often stress about gathering possible data points before starting on the projects, but we say, don't go down that rabbit hole. Look for data that complements your story. Everything else is a need-to-know basis. And of course, don't be afraid of getting your hands dirty. The ugly truth of the world of data visualization is that there's never a perfect data set. So don't be afraid to create your own in CSV, text, Excel, R, Python, or any other tool that you're familiar with. If you're familiar with web scraping, you can easily combine data from multiple websites to make your own data. If not, there's always the good old copy and paste into Excel. And lastly, we will urge you to always design last. Don't sweat the small stuff and obsess over the aesthetics of your viz until you have all the major pieces and your story down. That additional 30 seconds that you spend on adjusting tooltips, fonts, etc. can slowly add up and eat into valuable time that could be used to refine your entire narrative. Leave those at the very end, because chances are you'll be definitely going to be tweaking all the way through the last moment. And if you haven't got a clue on how to start, why not check out the Game Night Viz blog on inspiring vizes on good design, storytelling, and analysis, all of which are judging criterion for Iron Viz. If you're struggling with data sets or haven't got any yet to work on, look no further than the data archive that we have, which we have created over 40 different data sets. And as always, if you need assistance, you can reach out to Will, Tina, or myself, or even the data fan community in general. And with that, I thank everyone for your unwavering attention and hope this has been insightful and interesting for you.
Thank you so much, Lewis. That was amazing. And I really loved hearing about your thought process during each stage of the build. And the way you presented that was so well done. I loved your slides and please tell me how you did that. That was really cool. I just loved it.
Thank you. I might write a blog post about it then.
Oh, please do, definitely. And I'm sure people in the chat are wanting you to do that too. Amazing. Thank you again. So I thought it would be really fun to wrap up our session with some questions from the audience. So anyone in the chat right now, please feel free to drop in your questions and I can ask Lewis. But whilst we wait for those questions to come in, I would love to know, is there a specific challenge that has left an impact on you, Lewis?
Well, that's a tough one. We had 5 challenges so far, each, touching on like different aspects of video games. So the very first one was player select, where you kind of enter the game and you try to select a character. And we saw many vizes that revolve around, top 50 characters or like the, top Mario Kart characters or cars and stuff like that. And everyone had so many ideas and creativity with it. And I think the most impactful one was probably the one with interactivity, where we saw so many people creating stuff that I didn't knew you could do it in Tableau. Like I think I can't remember who was it, but there was a Pac-Man visualization that you could actually play the actual Pac-Man in Tableau. It's like, how cool is that?
Yes, I remember that one, and I can't remember who made it, but that was a really cool one. I completely agree. Actually, kind of leading on from that, do you have any favorite vizes that you've seen come through from this challenge from anyone in the community?
Wow, that's a hard one as well. I mean, I have a few favorites, but I think One of my most, I would say, inspiring one was the one on Rubik's Cube. Like the storyline for that was really well done, and it felt like a IMV's finalist submission, to be honest.
Yes, definitely. I love when someone kind of makes such a big viz and they really put everything into it, and it basically could just be submitted for Iron Viz, couldn't it? It's amazing. I love it. I'm just checking if we have any questions from the audience, but I don't think we do for now. So thank you so much, Lewis and Tina, for joining us today. This was so much fun, and I loved hearing more about the project and just more about kind of your goals for the future and just everything games related. I loved it. And thank you everyone in the audience for tuning in today for our first episode of Behind the Project. So we'll be holding these monthly, so stay tuned to find out who our next guests will be. And again, a huge thank you to Lewis and Tina for joining us. It was so much fun to chat to you both. And thank you for this incredible project as well. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Come back anytime.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, this year's IMV's team is game, so we are really excited to see what everyone has installed. Yeah.
I definitely feel like that must have been a coincidence.
Well, or Will could have some say in it.
I love that. When I saw the topic, I was like, yes, you guys were made for this. I love it. And everyone in the chat and anyone watching, please do check out Tableau Public for more data viz inspiration and to share your work with the global data fam. And be sure to join in on the conversation on Games Night Viz on Twitter and Tableau Public using the hashtag Games Night Viz. And don't forget the S in games. Thank you so much again, and take care, everyone.
Thank you.